It seems like we're in a period of RTS resurgence. We've got Age of Empires 4 coming out this month, we've got COH 3 in development, and various other games that keep popping up on the radar. One of those games is Starship Troopers Terran Command, and this week during Next Fest we've had access to a demo. Obviously this game isn't due out till next year, and the dev team are very keen to get feedback. So I'm going to give them some in this video. And if you have any feedback, either post it down below in the comments at the very least, or go and let them know on their Steam forums, or even on their Discord. What I want to cover here are the good things about the game, the bad things about the game, bugs that I've spotted, and what I would like to see the game have in the future. Because it's not just about what's in the demo, it's what I'd like to see in final release. And, you know, you kind of hope that they're thinking along the same lines already. Now, before we go any further, I want to clear something up. When I talk about Starship Troopers and things feeling like it, or seeming like it, or resembling it, I am talking about the 1997 movie. I haven't read the book. The movie is somewhat silly and brutal, but it's a classic now, and it's just more popular than the book, I'm sorry. So for me, any game is going to aim to be what the movie was more than the book. So I'm sorry for fans of the book, because I'm told it's very different to the movie. But that's just how the world is sometimes. Remakes can just be more popular than the original idea. And I think things like video games have to appeal to that wider market. So nothing against the books, I think they're probably fantastic and they probably tell a very different story. But most people fell in love with Starship Troopers because of the movie. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into it. The first thing to say is I really enjoyed the demo. It really does have a Starship Troopers feel to it. It has the little mission intros, which are like adverts for the military/government. It's got the whole aesthetic going on. The troops look good. The guns look good. You can't zoom in really far, which I think is a shame. I would like to get in a bit closer on those models. But the general aesthetics of the buildings, the environment, it feels very Starship Troopers. A little bit bland, perhaps. I'm hoping they add a little bit extra to spruce it up before release. Let's go over what I thought was really good about the game. So the game plays very well for something that's still quite far off from release. For the most part it's running smoothly, I didn't experience any crashes, I know some people have had a few issues, but my experience was pretty good. A couple of bugs with the graphics here and there, a couple of bugs with grenades and things like that, but nothing too exciting. Now for me the game has some really cool mechanics that other games have kind of veered away from. One of them is its line of sight mechanic in that units can't shoot through other units. So unit placement plays a big role in your strategy. You can have a unit on the main ground and then units on the hill behind them and they can shoot over the enemies. But if they're behind each other in a line, then they can't shoot through. They have to be next to each other so they can shoot at the enemy. Which means that before you go into a fight, you're thinking about your placement. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the things that don't work quite so well, because there's a bit of give and take with that. But the overall principle is really good. And you do learn as you play. So my initial playthrough, which has all the missions on normal difficulty, you can see how much I was struggling in the final mission. And that's because I was bad at placing troops, I wasn't sure how to use them, I was leaving them unattended, and slowly you learn not to do that. Now if you watch my second playthrough of the final mission, when it's on a harder difficulty no less, I complete it faster, I don't lose as many units, everything just goes smoother because I'm learning. And there is something really satisfying about learning in a game. Now not all games achieve that. A lot of games you play them and you're like, oh, I really don't want to play that again, it wasn't fun. And then to go back and improve things, it's still not going to be fun. This was. This I wanted to go back and play, I wanted to try it again, I wanted to do better. That to me is a good sign for a game, if I'm wanting to go back and improve on what I was doing previously. Another mechanic that's a little bit of a step away from most strategy games in this is the resource management side. You don't actually collect resources per se. You collect supply points which are deposited around the map. Once you collect those supply points, that is your supply limit. That allows you to bring in squads. Each squad has its own supply limit. If those squads die, you can obviously bring in more to reinforce them. But you're obviously aiming not to lose units if you can help it, though let's be honest, this is Starship Troopers, someone's going to die. And dying to the bugs was something that was very common in the movies. And that's no change here. The bugs are really well designed. The ones that we've seen so far, both in videos and in the demo, really do resemble the bugs from the movies. And they also to some extent act like them. So you have them where they will run up to the walls and they will climb up the walls to get into your base. That was something I really enjoyed seeing the first time. I wasn't expecting it. For some reason I was expecting them to get to the walls and try and attack the walls. But the fact they actually climbed up it really brought a smile to my face. The fact that they'd thought about the fact that the bugs are big enough to climb up the walls and want to get in the base. They've kept that in there like it was in the movies. I really appreciated that, and I wasn't expecting it. For the most part, the gameplay was very smooth. It ran like clockwork. Everything happened when it was supposed to happen. There were a couple of points in the game where things felt a little bit slow, like when you were clearing the nest, and some of that was a little bit confusing. So I'd like to go on to talk about things that aren't bad, but need some work. So unit pathing leaves a lot to be desired. Now, positioning troops is a significant part of the game, and that's something you have to learn to do. But sometimes when you're right-clicking and dragging to make units face a certain way and form up, they don't always do it properly. Sometimes they just turn on the spot rather than turning it to form a proper line to that direction. And I think that's probably more of a bug at this stage than anything else. The other issue is they also bunch up behind each other rather than aim to get line of sight when doing an attack move. If you have an attack move in the game, the units should have a little bit of sense to at least spread out in line rather than remain in a column so they can actually fire at the other units. One suggestion I saw for this on Steam was that you should make that a setting rather than a move order, so that you can position troops and they will fire on their way to that position regardless, and that way you're not doing an attack move and hoping that they will spread out. In a similar vein, snipers should probably have a target priority built in, or a setting to ensure their focus is enemy ranged units rather than the closest bug to them. They're very useful for killing ranged units, but sometimes they just start firing at the melee ones that are closer to them, when really they need to be focusing on the long-range enemy units. And also, some more feedback for the units that are under attack would be nice. If you're off faffing with the base a bit, and then your units get attacked, it would be nice to just have more of an alert. The unit shouting we're under fire, something that, just some audio cues to make you want to go over there. Now, I think as I previously mentioned, the elite units get special abilities, and they weren't good. A lot of the time they didn't work. The sniper one that puts down a beacon, firstly, it shoots way too close, a lot shorter than the regular snipers. And then secondly, the bugs could see it and destroy it. Now, either that's a bug or it needs rethinking, because firstly you want it as far away as possible probably, and secondly, surely it should have some kind of stealth or not make the bugs want to attack it, or its tooltip's wrong if it's supposed to be a distraction thing. Moving away from your units and thinking about the bugs instead, I feel like the main melee one that we're seeing should probably move a little bit faster. They were certainly faster in the movies, or have some kind of charge ability when they go to charge or run after and kill someone. And then to counter this, I would consider allowing rifle squads to fire on the move, but only when walking or indeed shuffling slowly forward. If you have a look at the movie, the mobile infantry do indeed shoot while they're moving, usually in a tight formation, and they're kind of going forwards and pushing the enemy away from them, or indeed they're backing up and retreating but shooting as they're going. Again, if this was some kind of toggle setting, so you could choose whether you wanted them to do that or not, that would be pretty good. Another thing was that, again, the AI of the bugs wasn't great, but I wonder if that's because there's no brain bug. So the main melee bugs that come at you at the start, the name escapes me, but those guys just kind of go in one direction and follow each other and try to go up the walls at one point. They don't try and flank or anything like that. Now, I can completely accept that the standard bugs would be like that, but then it would be nice if there was another setting for their AI, if there was a brain bug on the planet. And the brain bugs obviously are tacticians, they tell the others what to do. So it would be nice if some planets had the brain bugs on and the units behaved differently. It changed how they played and made it more challenging. That would be something really good for later levels in the campaign, for example. Perhaps that's more of a feature I would like to see than one that's actually going to be in there, though. In fact, let's talk about a few things I'd love to see in the game. Firstly, some kind of base defense mode, especially if that could be co-op or multiplayer, where you build a base or you are defending a pre-built base. Because that's something else I don't know. Are we going to be able to build the bases? Are we going to be able to build our own walls and things, or is it all predetermined? Another thing I'd like to see which relates to the bases is these tall towers that you had in the demo, where there were machine guns on top. You couldn't interact with those towers because there was another one on the final map near the right-hand side radar station. I would love to be able to tell my snipers to go up in that tower to give them a longer range of sight, or, 360-degree shooting and things like that. That wasn't an option. I'd love for that to be an option. Even to be able to build your own machine guns in there. I'd like to see a few changes to the tutorial. I'd like to see them talk a little bit about the green and yellow line of sight for the units, because sometimes they've got green, which I assume is they can see the units easily and can all fire, and then sometimes they have yellow, which I assume is they're going to miss. I don't know, it's not really explained properly anywhere. And then another thing are the bug tunnels. So the main hives have linked tunnels. Some tunnels can be destroyed, but they don't necessarily have a link to the hive. But other ones that have links to the hive do not appear to be able to be destroyed. You have to empty them alongside the hive. It's a little bit confusing as to which is which sometimes, and it would be nice if it was more obvious which ones you could destroy and which ones you couldn't. I'm going to touch on the music, and I've seen a few people comment on this. The music itself is not bad, but it's not the Starship Troopers music. And if you can afford it, dev team, get the Starship Troopers license. It is well worth having that music. It kindles a lot of nostalgia for people. The next thing I'd like to talk about is the UI. It could do with a little bit of a rework. It feels a bit flat. It could do with being a bit more metallic perhaps. It could do with being a bit bolder in places. Also, the whole resource/supply point mechanic, it's too small. It's not noticeable enough. And I'm also not getting enough information about how many points each unit is taking up and things like that. I need more feedback on this so I can correctly assemble my forces. And at the moment, I just don't feel like I'm getting it. Considering how far away we are from release, I didn't find many bugs. The main bug I had was that sometimes the units didn't throw their grenades. When I gave the command to use their grenade or one of their other abilities, particularly when they were throwing a grenade down a slope or to a lower level, they really struggled with that, and it just didn't happen sometimes. That's the main bug I found, and also with the elite units' abilities. Sometimes they just didn't seem to do it. And I mean, considering how far away we are from release, which is next year sometime, that's quite good. Okay, I saw a couple of graphical glitches here and there, but nothing to write home about. The game is in a really good place right now. And yes, it's a little rough around the edges, but again, we're quite a few months away from release, so I expect a lot of these things I've talked about to be tightened up, to be reworked, to be made more efficient. And I think they'll take a lot of the ideas that the community is giving them on board during this demo, because they actually seem genuinely interested in what people have to say about the game. If I had to give a summary and some closing thoughts, this is a really good game. It's on the right track. It feels a little bit like Dawn of War 1, just with a lot more emphasis on unit positioning. In fact, that's maybe something else I'd like to see in the game, is the option to upgrade your squads to add in, I don't know, grenade launchers or rocket launchers and things like that. Because that's something that was missing from the demo there. We didn't get to see tactical nukes, the handheld tactical nuke launchers they used to kill the big bugs that were taking out the spaceships. But yeah, this team is on the right track. They just need to stick at it and make these little adjustments to make the game run that little bit smoother as you're playing it. But this is one that I'm 100% looking forward to trying again and hopefully playing on release. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope that this was helpful for those of you who didn't get to try the game and has perhaps encouraged you to take another look at it. For those that have played, either stick some comments down below what you thought of it, or stick some feedback on the official Steam forums for the game. Let them know what you think, let them know what you think should be changed. They're going to take this stuff on board. They have time to do that. Not many companies do. Make use of it. Please do like and subscribe to the channel for the latest on this game and other games, and I'll see you all soon.